Hi, I'm Dr. Megan Lyons, and I am the current Wisconsin District 6 YFA co-chair along with my husband, and I hold a doctorate in clinical psychology. So the P&E committee asked me to join you today to start to talk about some of the signs of stress and ways to cope with stress. So we want to get started in noting what are some of those signs that you could potentially see within yourself or those around you. So these come in three main categories. The areas that you want to look for signs of stress are within someone's body language, within their verbal cues, and within their actions. Now, typically, you're not going to notice all of them that I'm going to list in a moment, but you'll probably see a few signs of each of the above. So, starting off with body language, we want to notice if this person, whether it be yourself or someone else, is feeling more stiff and rigid or fidgeting more often than they typically would. Now, this is also where you'll see the person's body being more tense as well. And of course, all of these things that I'm going to list are more commonly to notice in people that you're very familiar with. And if this is someone new to you, we might not have a real good baseline. So just look at, on average, how would someone typically hold themselves and kind of gauge from there. Moving on, we also have arms and legs crossed or hands clenched. All of these are classic signs of your body being closed off to other people. Then we move on to rapid blinking. If someone is not really concentrating well, their eyes are going to blink often, or if they're trying to take in a whole lot of information. There also might be some lip biting, where someone just plays with their lip like so. Or when someone has longer hair, sometimes you'll notice someone playing with their hair more often than they typically would. Now, moving on to verbal cues, these sometimes can be a little more subtle at times. Now, this can be someone who's talking in a much higher tone of voice than they typically would, or in a much lower tone of voice than they typically would. Or if they're being very, very loud, or their tone is much softer than they typically would speak. Now, you'll notice also in someone's pace of voice, they might be talking a whole lot faster, or they might be talking a whole lot slower than they typically would speak. So just kind of notice what is the average when it comes to the tone, volume, and pace of most people's voices. And if you know this person well, you're going to pick up on these a little bit quicker than someone who's new to you. Also notice if there's a difference in the choice of words that they use or in the topics that they tend to focus on. So some of the different choices in words that we might have are going back to one word answers. Like if you ask them a question and they respond with yeah, fine, okay, sure, or I don't really care, go ahead. Those are some of the signs that they're likely to be a bit more stressed. Also, if you're noticing that some of the ways that they're talking come off as more irritable, frustrated, aggressive, blaming, these might come off as statements like, well, you didn't tell me what was going on. You weren't invited to this conversation. How do you know? You weren't there, sorts of comments. And just notice if those are in more frequency than typically would be there. Also, of course, we want to take it very seriously if anyone starts talking about death or suicide. Now, if this is something that you are experiencing, please reach out to those around you, or please reach out to professionals. And if this is something that you are noticing in someone who is close to you, whether it be a friend, a family member, a neighbor, whoever it might be, please do not shy away from having that conversation with them. It is very important that if you are thinking about death and or suicide more often, or somebody else is showing those signs, that this is a time to connect with others. Please have that conversation. Please seek out professional help, either by calling 911, going to your local medical center, or making an appointment with a local therapist. Then we move on to people's actions. When people are stressed, we tend to lose interest in activities that were typically enjoyable for us in the past, whether this be going out for a walk, doing chores, or some people like to play music. Whatever it might be, whatever that activity is that you gain enjoyment out of. Again, also reduced engagement with others. Now, I want to be really clear about this because we are in the age of COVID, and I know that it is much harder to engage with others than it used to be. But if someone is having the opportunity to have a conversation with a loved one, do an online face chat, Zoom call, whatever platform you're using, or if there's even the happenstance someone pulls in the driveway to have a conversation with you and you stand 6 feet away from the car, are you willing to have that conversation or not? Rather than looking at, are they conversing with others or not? Since, of course, it is harder right now to have that engagement with others when we are social distancing. We also want to look for changes in appetite, hygiene, or sleep. And this can come in the form of either too much or too little of any of these. Now, if you're snacking all the time, don't feel like eating dinner, you're cleaning the house all of the time or never showering, or maybe only sleeping for a couple of hours a night, or sleeping the majority of the day, we want to look at all of those as potential signs, because it means that there are parts of your life that are out of balance in some way. We can also show signs of being fatigued easily. And those who are fatigued chronically, this is going to lead to more pain potentially, more illness. So being on the lookout for those. If you're having pain flare-ups, if you're having medical flare-ups in one way or another, those may be signs of additional stress. For those who are under a lot of stress, there's also the issue of difficulty concentrating or making decisions. And I'm not talking about life-altering decisions here. I'm talking about things like, what do you want for dinner? Are you wanting to go for a walk with me? If someone is struggling to even make those basic decisions, this is where we're talking about difficulty concentrating, or you repeat yourself 3 times to that person, or maybe if you're the person having difficulty concentrating, you have to ask someone to repeat something 4 times because you just weren't paying attention and you were kind of off in a daydream. And then too much stress can also lead to increases in risky behavior. That can come in the form of things like spending sprees, gambling, drinking too much alcohol, using drugs. So please be on the lookout for those as well. And with all of this being said, I want to say this is not an exhaustive list of signs, but these are some of the major hallmarks that might be telltales and easily seen by most individuals, or easily seen within ourselves. The question becomes, how do we cope? What do we do with this? How do we take care of ourselves in the face of stress that we're all feeling at this time? So there is a psychiatrist named Daniel Siegel, and he came up with the idea of the healthy mind platter along with David Rock. And as you notice, these 7 areas of our lives, they are all kind of interconnected. And the whole idea here is to have a good balance. And since this is a platter, the idea comes from, if you were to go to a dinner party, which I know we are all missing at this point in time, any good dinner party is going to have a variety of hors d'oeuvres. And any person who goes to that dinner party is going to want to try a variety of those and not eat all of just one hors d'oeuvre. So the whole idea here is to have a little bit of all of the above. So let's start with time in and connecting time. These two kind of go hand in hand in that they're both about connecting with someone, whether that be yourself or that be those around you. So for time in, this is a time for you to reflect on your day, reflect on how you're feeling right now, noticing, are you feeling in balance? Are you feeling out of balance? In what ways? For some people, they use this time to journal, to pray, to meditate, whatever is your preferred method of checking in with yourself. Then connecting time is pretty self-explanatory, but I know, again, kind of difficult to do at this time with other people. But connecting with those who are in your immediate surroundings, with whom you have contact with all the time, reaching out to friends, calling someone, doing something socially distanced together, like going for a walk or a bike ride or something along those lines where you're able to interact, but to do so safely. Then we move on to focus time. Focus time is when we are paying attention to that given task that is taking all of our attention. So this is when we are really focused in on work or a house project or a new business plan, whatever it is that you're working on. This is when, if you've heard of the word flow, you hit your stride and you're just zoned in on whatever that task might be in front of you. Then we have physical time and playtime. In contrast to focus time, playtime is the time for your brain to kind of run wild and be creative and do all those things that are fun and rejuvenating. Now, this might be something that's physically active or not, but it's a time for your brain to kind of wander and do those fun things that we all enjoy doing. This is kind of your hobby time. Then physical time is actually going out and getting some exercise. And I know as farmers, you don't necessarily need to go to the gym to get exercise, but this might be time to go for a walk or a bike ride or something that is not your typical daily work physical time, but is more of a physical time just for you and for your wellness. Then lastly, we have downtime and sleep time. Downtime is the time for your mind to just wander. And it has no particular focus, no particular anything in mind, just this is time for you to let your brain do its thing after it has had a long day of focusing in on all these other things. This is your brain's free time. So this is when you might catch up on that favorite show that you've been waiting for the new episode to drop, or you might decide to read a book or just peruse the internet or whatever else it might be, just wherever your brain takes you at that moment. And then sleep time. And I want to make it abundantly clear, this is definitely last but not least. Sleep time is so important to your overall well-being, for your brain and for your body. When we sleep, this is the time that we make new memories. This is the time that our body repairs everything that's going on within our system. This is when we rejuvenate. So sleep time is essential, and we want to make sure that there isn't too little or far too much, because again, this is all about balance throughout the day, balance over the course of the week, balance over the course of the month, because there are going to be some days that we can't fit all of these in, and that's fine. But you're going to want to have some of these probably at least somewhere within your week. And if you've gone much more than a week, you really want to get it in within the month, because we want to make sure that our brains are having the space to do all of these things listed on this platter. So I really hope that this information was helpful for you, helps you to note some of the signs within yourself or within others of stress and ways to begin to cope with such. So please, as I said before, work on that balance in all the different parts of your life. And if you're noticing one part of your life is outweighing all the others, let's reassess and let's come up with a way to find a better middle ground for yourself over the long run. And of course, if you are struggling, please reach out. If you know someone is struggling, please reach out. We are all dealing with a lot of stress right now, and it is so easy for any of us to fall into this space of struggling that it's very important for someone to connect, whether it be with a friend, a family member, a trusted community member, a medical professional, a mental health professional, whoever that is. And if you feel like you don't have the resources to help yourself or that other person, please enlist more people until you find the help that you need. Thank you so much, and take good care, everybody. Bye-bye.